Bring on the dancing girls and put the champagne on ice. We're heading in to Sin City, and we're about to win in Sin City. Welcome to Let's Bet, the show for folks who love betting on sports but hate losing money. I'll show you how to increase your sports betting bankroll by gaining confidence so that ultimately you can have the lifestyle that you deserve. I'm your host, Scott Pritchard, pro bettor, full-time, 31 years, founder of Pritchard'sPicks.com. Took third place in the Circa Invitational a year ago. Was fortunate to be asked back. They expanded the field to 25 of the world's best to collide. Cash back to the top 3. Right now I'm in the Elite 8, 1 week to go. Fourth place, half game out of third place. Wish me luck. We broadcast live and worldwide each and every Friday, Las Vegas time, 1 to 1:30. On demand on Pritchard'sPicks.com and on your favorite podcast and video distribution platforms. To reach out to us, I would suggest that you email us at letsbet@Pritchard'sPicks.com. That's letsbet@Pritchard'sPicks.com. A lot of you are tuning in, looking for value with the capital V. I get it. I got it. I hear what you're saying. Stay tuned. I'll be releasing that coupon code, 20% discount off all picks and packages applicable throughout the weekend. But first things first, we've got a show to do. My guest, legend. Not my words. These are the words of the New York Times. Are you kidding me? Jim Feist, friend, mentor, colleague, and all-around great guy. Jim Feist, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you for having me on Let's Bet.
I've been here for 31 years, but again, what I can do, you can do better. How many years, decades, centuries have you been here, my friend?
I started in the business in 68 and moved here in 70, so 55 years in well, it is January, 55 years.
Outstanding, yes. 55 years. So you came here when you were 4 years old?
Three.
I like that. Good.
I wish.
So I know you're a Philly guy, but I think you came here in the late 60s from Florida. Is that right?
I was born in Philly, raised in New York, went back to Philly, and then Florida, and then here in 70.
As a sports betting icon, living legend here in Sin City, what is it that you enjoy most about what you do?
Winning.
I like how you didn't hesitate.
It's a challenge. I love the challenge. I had a career in different things. I invested in different businesses, mostly from the money that I earned from betting. But I did play on the professional pool tour for 5 years when I was very young. And I had won a championship in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Then I ended up playing some of the best players in the world, Willie Mosconi, Minnesota Fats, people like that. This goes back a long way because I'm not young. This goes back a lot of years. And but that's how I got into gambling. I was always around pool rooms. When you're around pool rooms, you're around gambling, and that's how I learned to gamble. And I remember a little pool room in Freeland, Pennsylvania, and the owners knew that I liked to bet, and they asked me to make betting lines on the high school basketball teams. Me. I was just a teenager, basically. Well, I was a teenager. So I was making lines as an odds maker on high school basketball teams, and that's how I learned.
I like what you said when I asked you, what do you like specifically the most about what you do? And you didn't hesitate. You said winning, and I can relate to that. I think in terms of I hate to lose. In fact, my ex-wife years ago told me, you are such a bad loser. And I said, listen, show me a good loser and I'll show you a loser.
I think Lombardi said something like that too.
I thought I just now made that up off the top of my head.
Okay, well, you made it up. He got it from you.
That must have been what it was. The late, great Vince Lombardi, I know he did say the will to win is nothing without the will to prepare.
There's something about having to put your money back in action every day. Like, for example, let's say you win $20,000 last week. The most guys will take home their hourly wage and they can pay their bills and put it in the bank or whatever it is. But as a bettor, what you do and what I do, we have to take it out of our pockets and put it back in action. that takes a different mentality. That takes almost like the gunslinger in the Old West. You have to be willing to put your life on the line every day. And I don't know where that comes from, but I've always been able to do that. And I think that's probably true for you as well, because you're successful at what you do, and I am as well. And if you can't handle that mentality, that stress that you get from doing that, you're not going to be successful.
Well said. You have to have thick skin, short memory. Our mutual friend, the crack man, Bill Krackenberger, was here a few weeks ago, and I asked him the same question. And he said, I appreciate his honesty, his vulnerability, and his transparency, Jim, because he said, if I'm honest, I like the action.
Well, and the action's fun. But Bill is great. I mean, what a great guy. He knows more stuff about more things. He's a great guy. I like that guy a lot.
We're talking with Jim Feist, living legend, 55 years in the business. I understand you're a host of the cable TV show Proline. And Proline, this isn't the first I've heard of it. It's been around for a long time. If you could expand on that, please.
Well, Proline started in a little town in, Austin, Texas. We started it there. And it was on the Texas cable network, and then eventually got picked up by USA Network. And we were on USA Network for 36 and a half years. Now, we bought the time. It wasn't free. And we had to go out there and make money by bringing in customers. So that's what we did. We ran that show for 36 and a half years. A lot of customers from it, made good money. It was very expensive, and every year it got more and more expensive. But as time went on, the world changed. The internet came in, cell phones came in, text messaging came in, all that stuff, cable TV. And so that shows started to become too expensive, which is why after that 36 and a half years, we had to stop it, because we were spending a lot more than we were making. But it was a great show. And one of the things about the USA Network, they had rules. We couldn't even say words bet or win or things like that, because it was all controversial in those days. Now, of course, we have betting everywhere in a lot of states, or DraftKings, FanDuel, et cetera, et cetera. In those days, you couldn't do that. It's been a long ride, because like I said, I started in 68, moved here in 70, and all the rules have changed. And what I used to do, a lot of the country, including the Attorney General, thought I was breaking the law, and almost got in a lot of trouble from it, and was threatened many times by the Attorney General for what I was doing, which was nothing but giving advice. It's all we were doing. But in those days, it was considered gray area, was not ever illegal, but they thought it was borderline, and they almost got me in a lot of trouble, but we got through it.
Very interesting in listening to you speak, because I know you were the first of the first. You are a pioneer in the business. And as I'm listening to you speak, I'm just thinking objectively, without you, there wouldn't be a PritchardsPicks.com. How has it evolved over the years, over the decades, compared to, I know respectfully, I like to think that I evolved. I didn't grow up with the internet, but I'm pretty sure it's here to stay. But when I make a phone call, it's still not from a rotary phone. And when I listen to music, it's no longer on an LP or a 45 or an 8-track or a CD. So what was that transition like for you many years ago to evolve? I guess you'd have to be a chameleon almost, right?
We had to be. And the thing was, all the new things that were coming along, we weren't brought up with that. I mean, I was born in the 40s. That was before television. That was before telephones, really, because everything was party lines. So we had to evolve with all the technology. And that wasn't easy, because we're evolving into an area that we have no experience in, and most of the world doesn't have an experience, except the people that are really smart with technology. Most of us were struggling with it. And when the internet came along, we developed a site in the mid-90s that really did well. However, we didn't know how to use it to its full capacity. So other people that were younger, because the younger generation's always going to take over, And they did. They came along, they had better ideas and pushed a lot of what we were doing out. Of course, in the beginning, when I started in 68, 70, when I got here, the only way you could communicate with a customer was either by direct mail. I'm talking about snail mail. There was no text messages. There was no email. There was no internet. There weren't even fax machines in those days. So we either had to use the telephone or snail mail. Today, you can't use either one of them because they're not effective cost-wise.
The fact that you've been in the game for 55 plus years, the fact I've been in the game for 31 years, I think we look good for 86, 55, and 31.
Well, thank you. I don't know what
You're a
else
lot younger than that.
I don't know what else to say, but thank you.
You know, I pay homage to people that have done what I'm doing before I've done it. And a person that comes to mind is the late, great Lem Banker, who was a personal friend who passed at age 91.
Yes.
I was at his house many times. He was a former boxer, but I was intrigued by his story, Jim, because if I remember right, he came to Vegas in 58. He was broke, but as a pro bettor, being broke many times, he eventually learned to where he was featured on the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, I think with Robin Leach. And so it's just a great, great, great feel-good story. I think success leaves clues. What do you think is the number one skill to be successful in this business?
The ability to manage. Well, first of all, you have to have a decent opinion. I mean, and I can't tell anybody how to get a decent opinion because it's really a lot of work, a lot of study. Today, there's a lot of great information that you can get for nothing. That wasn't always the case. Like, for example, how did we find out what was going on in Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Buffalo back in the day? We used to pay people at the airports, the porters, to bring us the newspapers to our office so that we could go through the sports pages and try to find articles about what these teams are doing, what the coaches were saying. That's the only way we could get the information. We used to work 18, 20 hours a day just to do that. Today, it's on the internet. You just plug it in, go to the site, you can read what they're going to do, what's Pittsburgh doing this week, what's the Colts doing this week. It's all right there. It was a lot harder in those days, but it was also harder for the odds makers. So if we got ahead of the odds makers, we had an advantage.
Right.
Now, what's the second issue? You have to be able to manage failure. You can't let it overwhelm you. You have to manage your money. Don't spend outside your payroll, your budget, what you're capable of. And you have to be able to take those bad beats. I mean, you're going to have days when you just can't pick a winner, no matter how much work you did. You won last week doing the same thing. This week you can't pick a winner. How do you justify that? Well, it's just random. And that's what this is. It's a random game. But at the end of the day, out of 100 plays, if you can win 58 and you manage your bets right, you made a lot of money because 58 winners and 42 losers is a 16-game spread. If you take the juice off, it's a 12-game spread. So if you're betting $500 a game, you're making pretty good money. If you're betting $10,000 a game, you're making a lot of money. So that's where the edge is. But it all comes down to those two things. Get ahead of the information, manage your money, and manage your control of your emotions.
Sports betting philosophy. I want to take this opportunity to expand on Jim Feist's information here. What he's talking about. I mean, if you can hit 58 out of 100, that's 58%. We know the break-even point when betting sports is 52.4%. That means you have to be right 11 times out of 21 to break even. The point spread is there to present a 50-50 proposition. So if you and I are going to flip a coin and I'm going to give you $100 every time you win, but every time you lose, you pay me 110, I'm going to live a very good lifestyle, and I thank you for that. That means in English that the sports books only have to be right 47.4%. So you have to proactively offset the vig, the juice, the tax, the house's edge. The reason the sports books make money is because of that. 110 to make 100, 1,100 to make 1,000. The way I do it is by having an unfair advantage, being sharp, hopefully oftentimes seeing things before they happen. On Tuesday, if I can lay 3.5, and on kickoff Sunday, it's 5, I'm getting a half point and half. The best of it long term, I go from being a small favorite to lose to a small favorite to win. That'll wrap up this edition of Sports Betting Philosophy. Back to the living legend, Jim Feist. We've talked about what you enjoy most about sports betting: winning. No hesitation.
No.
We talked about what it takes to be a successful long-term winning sports bettor, but why do you think most people who bet on sports lose outside of bad money management?
Expectations that are unrealistic. And that's part of that is the industry. There's a lot of people that profess to hit 60, 70, 75%. And the average public might believe that, and it's impossible. Yes, out of a 10-game cycle, you might hit 7 out of 10, or you might hit 8 out of 10. But if you're going to do this for a long time, you're not going to do that, because the bookmakers are not that dumb. They're actually, well, let's say odds makers, they're not that dumb. They know how to put up a number that's going to make it difficult for you to do that. And there's enough information out there for them and for you to use properly that they're not going to put out enough bad lines for you to do that. So the target, and I'll go back to it, is 58%. That's realistic. You can do that. Now, I've had years when I've had higher numbers. I've had some of the contests, I think this is funny, I've been in some of the contests where I've hit 63, 64%, and because the contests are loaded with thousands of entries, I still didn't cash because somebody's coming in and having a great year and you still don't get any money because they were paying a lot shorter fields back then. But it's hard. It's hard. 58's the target. If anybody tells you it can hit 65 or 70, other than over a 10-game span, don't believe them.
Great point, because short term, anything's possible. It's really about the long game. What do you do on a consistent long-term basis? The biggest, baddest sports bettor on the planet, Billy Walters, his golden objective was to hit 55% winners. Now, granted, he's betting 6 figures a game. Yes. Anything over 52.4% is gravy. I will offset that simply by getting good numbers. I'll give you an example. I'm a math guy, numbers guy, finance guy. To me, the bottom line is the bottom line. If you have 272 pro football games during the course of the regular season, that's the number, 272 pro football games. And if you can proactively get, grind, scalp, steal, extort a half point, just a half point, and beat that closing line value, that is 136 free points for the season. Long term, very significant.
Excellent point. I like that a lot.
And when you think in terms of 58 out of 100, say 58%. Well, if you make 10 bets and you hit 6 out of 10, well, that's a 60 percentile. But would you rather have 2 more winners, 6 and 4, or 16, to your point, 58 and 42? So not all numbers are created equally. And that's back to another point. I often say I bet numbers, I bet value way more than I bet teams. I really like what you said about overcoming adversity, getting kicked in the teeth, failing on a consistent long-term basis, bad beats. I always say, hey, yesterday is history, today is a mystery. But we do have to have thick skin, short memory. I try to wipe the I always tend to remember what I did most recently, and I might have had a great day yesterday. It doesn't mean dick as far as what I'm going to do today.
That's right.
Conversely, if you have a bad day yesterday, you have to wipe the slate clean each and every day. I want to ask you, what do you do to get away? Because I know, talking off air before we went live, you talked, like me, that you do this 12 months out of the year. Me, after the Super Bowl every year, everyone that follows me knows that I get away. I escape Costa Rica, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand. It'll be my 11th time in Thailand after the Super Bowl this year. I'm going to LA to see the Lakers on Tuesday, Clippers Memphis Wednesday, and then I'm off to the Philippines on a flight back to Bangkok. 17 million people. That's what I do to chill, relax, decompress, clear my mind. What do you do, Jim, to get away, or do you get away?
Well, I do mentally. I don't travel as much as I used to. I had traveled the world, actually. I've been to 24 different countries in my life, and I've lived in several. But what I do now, and I work out a lot. I go to the gym a lot. I work out a lot. I try to stay. I am not as, if you're going to stay young, you got to keep your mind active, which this business helps you do that. And with all the people having mental, problems with memory and such, I think this business helps me stay sharp enough at my age. And anybody that stays active mentally, it does help. And I go to the gym several times a week, and maybe sometimes more than several times. And I have a wife that's a decorator, and she's building her business, and I try to advise as much as I can. It's her business, but when I'm there, when she needs me for some advice, I try to help that. And, I just try to live a good life. We have a show that we do every week that you've been to and on, and I do a lot of podcasting. I try to stay extremely active. I could stop working, but I don't feel as healthy. I'm really not in favor of retiring because I don't know what I would do. I mean, I used to play a lot of golf. I used to bowl a lot. I used to run a lot. Things physically I can't do like I used to do. So the one thing I can do on the physical side is work out. I can go to the gym, work out, feel good about that, eat right, live a good life, and try to help people as much as I can. I mean, I like helping people. And I'm into philosophy and Zen, and we were talking off air about different philosophies and things. And I used to give lectures when I was very young, came right out of high school and stuff. And I always, Dale Carnegie and Think and Grow Rich books and Napoleon Hills. And I used to give lectures to high school and college seniors, big groups. And I've been doing that all my life, directly, but not paid for. In the early days I was. And I like doing that. I like helping people.
I like that a lot. I just now am thinking, based on what you just said, I'm going to ask you a personal question. It has nothing to do with sports betting, and I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yes, I do. Why not put you on the spot? For a guy who's been doing TV for 36 and a half years, I'm sure nothing is going to surprise you at this point. But based on your life experience, if you could narrow it down to just one concrete message that you would share with the world or a child, or maybe 10-year-old Jim Feist is sitting right here, right now, based on what you've learned and what you've experienced, what life lesson advice would you share?
A lot of them, but I'll try to narrow it down to one just for now, because there could be, if I sat and thought about it for hours, I could come up with several. If you can't accept it and you can't change it, leave it. Human beings are complicated. Situations are complicated. If you frustrate yourself trying to make somebody be what you want them to be or do what you want them to do, it's probably an 0 for 10,000 in my lifetime. And there's a great book out right now, and I'm not here to promote or be an influence for Mel Robbins, but she just put out a book, and she's got a lot of stuff on. And my wife is into this lady, and she's all over YouTube. She's got great videos and stuff. And it's called, what did I say it was? Let them.
Let them, yeah.
So
Mel Robbins.
If somebody shows you what they are, tells you what they are by their actions, believe it. Let them be who they are. Don't try to change people. People are complicated. The most complicated creatures on earth are people. And situations are sometimes totally out of your control. And you can be totally frustrated your whole life trying to change people, trying to change things. Just accept it. If you can't accept it and you can't change it, leave it. Let them be who they are. And that's been a very great philosophy for me to stay peaceful and in the moment and where I should be.
Love it. Great input. You're listening to and watching Let's Bet. Scott Pritchard, your host, living legend Jim Feist, my guest. We're going to come back with best bets, but first, this break.
Had a great time today with Scott Pritchard. Really enjoyed it. We talked a lot about sports betting. We also talked the fundamentals of sports betting, not just giving a pick. So join us every week. Let's bet. Did I do that wrong?
Did I do that wrong? Gotta love the crack man, Bill Krackomberger, my guest a few short weeks ago. He's a mutual friend of both Jim and me. Jim, you do a show every Thursday. My girlfriend and I have come out on location to support you.
Yes.
It's a great panel. I'm going to be a guest on January 30th, right before the Super Bowl. I'm excited and pumped about that. It's Don DeMarco's Pizza on West Charleston, 12 noon Las Vegas time. Tell me about the show.
Well, Albert Scalliot is the owner, proprietor. The food is exceptional. It really, really is. I go there no matter, forget the show. It's a great place to go eat. But noon on Thursday, we do a 1-hour taping, and we have some of the best sports people, gamblers, handicappers on there giving free information, yourself included. And we appreciate you coming and supporting even when you're not on the show. Thank you for that. It's a great show. You should be there Thursday at noon. The food is good. They give out a couple of free bottles of wine, too, if you get lucky and draw the right number. But the information is incredible. We had Andy Iskoe on this week, and
next week you're having Todd Dewey and Gil Alexander.
That's right.
You've had Matt Humans.
We've had Matt Humans, Aaron Renning.
Cornegay from the Superbook.
What was the other gentleman that was there yesterday? He sat right next to
Bernie from Fox.
Yes, Fratto, Bernie Fratto. Funny man. He never forgets any joke. He knows every joke. But he knows how to analyze a game. And we give out a lot of free information, who to bet on, and we don't charge anything for any of it. We enjoy doing it. Like I said, I like helping people. If I can teach people how to think about gambling, how to look at gambling in a more positive way rather than the thinking, let's go out and get rich type of thing. So I love doing it. I love contributing that. And it's one of the most fun hours of the week for me.
I love it. Every Thursday, West Charleston, Don DeMarco's Pizza, the owner, Albert, great guy. I'll be a guest on January 30th. Come on by, talk some smack. We take questions, comments, concerns, but to Jim's point, we like to teach, train, and explain. It's time now for Best Bets. Last week, I had a couple of, actually I had 3 different guests. Dave O'Hara was my guest, gave out 5 plays versus the number. I'm more of a one and done kind of guy. Less is more. It's not how many you bet, it's how many you win. Before you bet it, make sure you get it. What does that mean in English? I'm glad you asked. It means patience, discipline, money management skills, the ability to shop and recognize value. Okay, class is out. Let's get to Best Bets. Last week, Paul Stone, 2-0. Brad Powers, 5-star rock star college football guru, went 1-1. Jim Feist, Best Bets. Who do you like and why?
Well, there's not a lot of games this week that have meaning. We know that there's a lot of people sitting. Let's look at the most obvious one to me. Detroit, Minnesota, which is, to me, the best game of the week. We have a defense for Detroit. They're playing at home. They have a lot of injuries. They really can't stop people because of those injuries. It's really hurt them because they were playing at a very high level before they started to get hurt. But their offense is incredible. Their offensive line has been rated at either first or second the whole year. They can score, and they know, and whether you like Dan Campbell or not, and he can be a nut job with some of the things that he does, but, he got to the end last year, and people criticize him for the one mistake he might have made at the end. But he does 100 crazy things a year. He might win 70 of them, and that's how he got there. Well, you can't criticize the person for one thing that he does. He goes for it on 4th down. He might be in the wrong territory, but he's crazy. But I like him, and the players love him, and that's important because they love playing for him because he trusts them. So he knows he has to win on offense. He's got to put up a lot of points because he knows his defense can't stop the people like they were able to earlier in the year when they were healthy. Now, Minnesota, on the other hand, is having an incredible year. They had an over and under win total for like 6 or 6.5.
Yeah.
And now they got 14. I mean, you talk about overperforming, but Sam Darnold, who a lot of teams have given up, that's a whole nother subject. He's playing great. They're playing great. They got great wide receivers, a head coach, new guy doing a great job. They're going to put up points. I like this game over. I bet it over 52. I've seen it go to 58. It backed off to 56, 56 and a half. I'm still betting it over. I think we're looking at 60-65 in the game. Another game, now this is a little bit more controversial. The Cincinnati Bengals, criticize the coach all you want. I don't think he's a head coach. I think he's an offensive coordinator. They need a defensive coordinator that didn't look so bad coming into the year, but right now it looks pretty bad. And it has been bad all year. Their offense is incredible. They got Chase and Higgins and Brown, and they lost one of the running backs, but Brown got a little hurt last week too. They can put up points, but they can't stop anybody. Pittsburgh has lost 3 in a row. Tomlin is a great coach. We know that. Conservative in the way he is. He's different. He's old school. They got an old quarterback who's probably maybe done. But Wilson can play, and he's not turning the ball over that much, and he can play. And they are upset with losing 3 in a row. They're at home. Now, here's the deal. We all know that Cincinnati needs to win, and they need some help from Miami and the Chargers, et cetera, to get into the playoffs. That's probably not going to happen, but it could. But they got to win this game to do it. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, you say, well, they're in the playoffs. They have nothing to play for. That's not true. Because if they lose, they're going to Baltimore. Because we're assuming Baltimore is a 20-point favorite, is going to win this week. I don't want to go to Baltimore if I'm Pittsburgh. I don't want to face that juggernaut down there, but I'd rather go to Houston, who hasn't been playing well for a long, long time. They have their own injuries. They got the young quarterback that's regressing. So I'm on Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's going to come to play. They've got the talent. They got a better defense. They got a good running game. They got the wide receiver back. And Tomlin is a good coach. I don't buy that the Bengals should be favored in this spot.
Jim Feist, there you have it. His best bets. He likes the Pittsburgh Steelers at home against the overrated, overhyped, underperforming Cincinnati Bengals. They've lost not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 games they should have won. They had Baltimore beat not once but twice, including in overtime, including a 10-point fourth quarter lead, including a missed field goal by Mr. Automatic McPherson. So they lost to Baltimore twice. They also lost to the Chargers by going for 2 late instead of just going for the extra kick and going to overtime. All they had to do against the Kansas City Chiefs was not give up a first down on 4th and 16. Couldn't do it. It's too much to ask. Why? Because Zach Taylor's your coach, and the Bengals had a blatant pass interference because, to Jim's point, they don't play any defense. Okay, enough of the rant. I've got one play one time, not how many you bet. It's how many you win. Less is more. Lions, Vikings, Minnesota, +3. Don't need the points, but I'll take the points. 18% of all pro football games are decided by that key number of 3. This game, when they played early, was a coin toss. 31-29, Vikings lost at home to the Lions. But this is a home game for the Lions. They're world beaters at home. Not really. They've lost at home before, and they could lose again on Sunday. Why? Because, to Jim's point, weak defense, injury-riddled defense. It's going to be a shootout. It's whoever has the ball last probably is going to win this game. I do like the points. Points mean more than opinions. Minnesota +3. See the cashier. Jim Feist, living legend, my guest on Let's Bet. How can people find you?
JimFeist.com. I have a website. We do have picks for sale there. We have articles. We have audio podcasts there. And we have a new site, which is a gaming portal. And this is interesting because I'm trying to build a place where people can go get information. They don't have to buy anything. They don't have to buy picks. We're not there to sell picks. Proline TV on YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in Proline TV, and subscribe. I think we put up like 70 videos in the last 35 days. We've got coaching interviews. We got people contributing. It's an awesome site. It's brand new. It's only like 35, 40 days old. And I think it has a lot of potential for the public to learn what is going on out there from quality people. And like I said, I like helping people, and this is why I developed this. I'm not in it to try to make any money. I'm not charging anything. I'm not asking anybody to give me money. We're just doing it as a labor of love.
Really enjoyed having you on Let's Bet. I've been a big, big fan for decades. I am proud to call you my friend.
Oh, so am I, sir. Thank you for having me.
Living legend Jim Feist, my guest on Let's Bet this week. The coupon code that you have been patiently waiting for. Coupon code January. How original is that? January. January. That is the coupon code. 20% off all picks, all packages applicable throughout the weekend. To reach out to us, email us at letsbet@pritchardspicks.com. That's letsbet@pritchardspicks.com. For living legend Jim Feist, my name is Scott Pritchard. Until next weekend, see the cashier.